Yes. Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to continue with the concept which we had discussed yesterday. So basically, the yesterday's topic was related to calculation of early start and the early finish. Is it right? So the same concept we are going to discuss today. Uh, can anyone just tell what was the last calculation we have done in yesterday's class?
E6.
E6. Yes. Now I remember. Possibly E7 and E8 is still remaining. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So can you just tell me the list of activities? First activity was this activity
1-2.
duration 1-2. Next
2-3.
okay. Next
3-4.
3 dash
4-7.
okay.
2-6.
Okay.
6-7.
Okay.
7-8.
Okay. That is the last activity. 7-8. All right. So once this is done, next the duration part, the duration aspect.
10.
10. Okay.
25.
25.
25.
20.
25 again.
Again 25. Next.
30. 30.
Okay.
2.
Okay.
Again 2.
Yes. All of them are 2. We were supposed to determine the early start. Thank you. Yes. So we were supposed to determine the early start and early finish for all these activities. So first requirement for this was we have to draw the network diagram. The network diagram would look like this. 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, 4-7. Okay. So these were the different activities. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are done. Next 2-6. Okay, 7-8 was there. Yes. So I do not have space, so I'm just writing this way. But actually, this is not allowed. We are supposed to draw from left to right. Okay, the arrow should be from left to right. This is not actually allowed. Otherwise, what I will do is I will draw it separately in the next scene. That would be ideal. Okay, so the different nodes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. 2 to 6, 6 to 7. Correct? These are the different activities in this particular project. 10, 25, 25, 30. So we have 10, 25, 25, 30, 2, and 2. Okay. So first we calculated E1 as 0. That is for all the problems. It is the same. Okay, for all the problems, this is the same. Next, E2. E2 was nothing but E1 plus duration of 1 dash 2, which was equal to 0 plus 10, which is equal to 10. Correct. So these are some calculations which we have done already in the previous class. E2 plus duration of 2 dash 3, that is 10 plus 5 is equal to 35. Next, E4 is equal to E3 plus duration of 3 to 4. So what was duration of dash 4?
25.
25. That is equal to 60. Next, E5 is not there. E6 we are supposed to calculate. What was E6? E2 plus duration of 2 dash 6. So what is duration of what is E2 first of all? E2 is 10. Duration of 2 dash 6,
2 days.
2 days. Correct. All these were done in the previous class. 2 dash 6. So 10 plus 2 is equal to 12. Now coming to the next calculation. Now 7th, how many activities actually finishes on the 7th node? Next we are supposed to calculate the early start for the 7th node. So can anyone tell how many activities basically finishes on the 7th node? This is 7th node. Two activities. One activity starts from
4.
4th node, correct? And the other activity starts from how much? Which 6? And what is the duration of 4-7?
30.
Correct. Next 6-7.
2.
Okay. What is E4?
60 days.
60. Correct. And what is E6?
12 days.
12 days.
Correct. So what will happen is two activities finishes on the 7th node. They are okay. They are 4-7 and 6-7. Okay. So duration of 4-7 is equal to 30 days, and duration of 6-7 is 2 days. All right. So just make note of this. In which case we will require two different equations. Okay. In previous calculations we only required only one equation, but in this case on the 7th node, two different activities finishes, so we require two different equations. So those who have completed this calculation, writing this particular node, you can actually calculate the value for E7. E7 in the sense you are supposed to formulate two different equation and you have to calculate the value for the same. Okay, so once this is done, I assume that you have understood this and you have already made note of the same. So assuming that we will just go ahead. In case if you have not made note of it, you can just message me or you can just tell me orally. What are the two different equations? E7 is equal to. So what are the two different equations? Which two equations will be used for calculating E7?
E4 plus duration of 4 to 7.
E4 plus duration of
4
4
to
dash. Correct. That's right. That is one equation. Another is
E6
E6 plus duration of
E6 plus duration of 6 dash 7.
6 to 7.
And I will tell why maximum is considered here. Okay. What is E4? You said 30, I guess. 35. E4 is how much?
60.
60. Okay.
60. Yeah.
Yeah, 60 plus duration is
30.
30.
30 days.
60 plus 30. And E6 is 12 plus 2. So which is maximum? 90, 14. So what should be the answer here?
90.
Is it right? So this should be the answer. Now, why maximum value is considered? We'll write next. Okay. It's a very simple concept. Only that can anyone tell what was 4-7 and what was 6-7? Description. What was the description of this particular two activities, 4-7 and 6-7? I think in the previous class we have written the description of each of that. Question statement 4-7 description.
4-7 is a circulate brochure to the paper presenters.
Okay, and 6-7 is student coordination.
Formulating student committee for the coordination of conference program.
Correct. So if you have to see, if the conference program has to start after these two activities, that is, one is formulating the students coordinator in order to conduct the conference, and also in order to circulate the brochures to different type of the participants. Correct. Now, once these two activities are over, what will happen is the participants will come to the conference and they will start presenting their papers. Is it right? Whatever the research they have done in different area, they will start presenting the same, and there the presentation program actually starts, or the conference program actually starts. Is it right? Now, if this program has to start, both these two activities has to finish, isn't it? Now, the conference program cannot start The conference program cannot start uh, just by finishing the student coordinators. If the student coordinators are formulated, we cannot directly start the conference program. Is it right? Why? Because if the conference program has to start, we also require paper presenters. If we do not have paper presenters, what to do with the student coordinators? Isn't it? So for the project manager, both these activities has to complete. Are you getting this? So these two activities should be finished, only then the next activity can start. That is, the conference can start. Is it right? So that is the reason maximum value is considered. That is the earliest possible duration by when the project manager can actually start the activity. Is it understood? The same concept we will just write in the form of notes. That will be the okay. So I'm just going for the next screen. 4-7 is circulating. 4-7 is circulating the brochures. Paper presenters. 6-7 is formulating the student coordinator. So next 7-8, if the next activity has to start, that if the next activity has to start, that is conference program. Both these activities that is 4-7 and 6-7 has to end. Okay, so only after circulating the brochures as well as formulating the student coordinators. Okay, uh, only after these two activities are finished, we can start the conference program. Otherwise, we cannot start the conference program. So, conference programs, the beginning of this particular conference program actually depends on these two activities. So, the project manager has to wait until these two activity finishes. Okay, is it fine? So that is the reason the maximum value is considered as E7. Any doubts here? Correct. So this is how we calculate E7. Okay, so just make note of this. Then we will go for the next concept. Okay, so I'm going to the next screen. In case if you want me to stay in the previous screen, you can just tell me. If not, we'll go ahead. Yes, so this is done. Therefore, maximum value for is considered as E7. Okay. Next, calculate early start for the 8th node. Can you calculate the early start for 8th node? E8. What should be the equation?
E7 plus duration of 7 to 8.
E7 plus duration of 7-8, and that is equal to how much? E7 is how much?
90.
Plus 2 days conference program, 92 days. So the completion of the conference program will take 92 days. Always remember that E8 or the early start of the last node will be equal to the project completion duration. Now, if you calculate the project completion duration, it will be the same, 92 days itself. So one of the ways in the final examination, how you can verify whether you have got the right answer or not. Right? So one of the ways to verify your answer in the semester end examination is match the last node early start with that of the project completion duration. These two are the same, then you have got the right answer. Correct? So just make note of this. Once that is done, we will go for the next one. So total project completion duration, or the total number of days taken to complete this project, 92 days. Now, why this is important? Because the project manager can start calculating the project cost, and based on the project cost, once the project duration is fixed, project completion duration is fixed, the project completion cost also can be determined. That can be the next parameter that can be determined by the project manager, and a different type of the control measures can be taken. Okay, so what we'll do now is I will give one example. You have to solve it by yourself. Okay, so this is one of the examples. So here you may find a little bit challenging. The challenge would be to draw the network diagram. So just See that you're drawing the network diagram properly, then solving for the early start and early activity and the duration 1 dash 2 dash 3 2 dash 4 dash 5 4 dash 5 3 dash 5 and the last 5 dash 3. Duration is 3 2 dash 3 again 2 dash 4 is 7 2 dash 5 is 8 4 dash 5 is 3 dash 5 is 5 5 dash 6. So these are the different activities and durations. So the question is the same. You have to first draw the. Now, even if this question is not asked, you are supposed to draw the project network diagram. Okay, project network diagram. And the second thing, what we are supposed to do is early start, early finish. So we are supposed to determine early start, early finish for each activity. Yes, I think all right. So we'll just solve this problem. Yes. So I think in the previous problem, we have not completed the previous problem. Do one thing. You just make note of this question statement, and then we'll just go back and complete one more step. Because what we have done is we have only calculated the early start for each of the nodes, but we have not calculated early start for each of the activities. Activities are nothing but those are the arrow diagrams, arrows, what is being represented in the network diagram, correct? So for each of the activities, we are supposed to determine the early start and the early finish. That was actually the question statement, but we have only calculated the early start for each of the nodes. Node means what? It is the starting point of each of the start or the end of each of the. So that is the reason. We'll just go back to the previous problem. Okay. So in the previous problem, what was the early start for each of the nodes? Can you just tell me the early start for each of the values? Early start for each nodes. Can anyone tell what were the early start for each of the nodes? E1 was 0. Okay. Next. What was E2?
10,
10. E3?
35,
35. E4?
60,
60. What is E5? E5 is not there.
if it is not
E6?
12,
12. E7,
90,
90. And E8,
92,
92. Correct. Uh, 92. Is it right? So these things are done. Now, next is here we have calculated the early start for each of the node. Now we have to calculate the early start as well as early finish. So are you getting what I'm trying to do here? See, in the we have not yet completed the previous problem. I'm just solving the previous problem. Why? Because we had only calculated the early start for each of the nodes. Okay. Now the question is actually we were supposed to determine the early start and early finish for each activity. So different columns required are activity, duration, early start, and the early finish. Okay, so these are the different parameters required. So what are the different activities? 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, 4-7, 2-6. Durations were 10. 2-3 was 25. 3-4 was 25 again. 4-7. 4-7 is how much? 30, I guess. Is it right?
yes.
It is 30. Now, still two more activities are there. So we'll write it in the next screen. So early start is supposed to be determined. How do we do that? Early start is something, but what is the starting node for this activity? This activity, that is 1-2 activity. The starting node of 1-2 activity is 1. That is the reason we consider E1. All right. So always remember that. That means what? The first activity is starting on the 0th day. Getting this? Similarly, what is the starting node for 2-3 activity? Yes. So just going ahead. Any doubts here? If anyone has any type of doubts, you can ask. Yes. So what is the starting node for 2-3? What is the starting node for 2-3? from which point 2-3 activity starts? Node number. Yes, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Note 2.
Node 2 should be the starting point. That is the reason E2 is considered. Correct? And what is the value of E2?
10. 10.
10.
Yes. So that is the reason E2 is considered. So likewise, you have to go on filling up the rest of the values. So this value as well as these starting node has to be the same. Is it fine? Now similarly, what is early finish? Early finish is nothing but so I will just write, I do not have space here. So I will just write it. Yes. Early finish of activity. Early finish is equal to early start plus duration. So in this case, what will be the early finish for the first activity? The early finish will be equal to early start of the activity, that is 0 plus 10, which is equal to 10. Is it right? So early start of the activity is 0, duration is 10. So that is the reason this will be equal to 10. Yes, if anyone is not understanding any of the concept, you are supposed to ask. I can explain this once again in case if anyone has not understood.
Sir, I didn't understand how E2 is 10, sir.
See here, see 2-3 activity, starting point of 2-3 activity. I will just go to the next screen. See 2-3 activity means what? Activity starts. It is represented this way. Is it right? Now 2-3 activity actually starts from the second node. That is the reason we consider the early start for this particular node. So what is E2 here? E2 is already calculated.
10.
10 days. Is it right? So that is the reason the early start for 2-3 activity is equal to 10 days.
Okay, sir.
This is how we are supposed to calculate. Okay, any other doubts? So we have to see the starting point of the activity. Starting point of the activity we observed, and the early start of that particular node, the early start of that activity. Okay, so if there is any doubts, you can ask. If there is no doubts, just tell me what is the answer for early finish of the same activity. Early finish again, it is the same. Early start plus the duration. So any answer for early finish of this activity? So early finish is nothing but early start
10 plus 25.
is 10 plus 25, which is equal
35.
to 30. Correct. The answer for this particular activity is going to be 35. If there is any doubts, if anyone has not understood anything, just ask.
Sir, I didn't understand how to calculate early start, sir.
Early start. See, we'll just consider 2-3 activity itself. Now 2-3 activity is represented. 2-3 activity is represented this way, right? 2-3 is represented in this particular form. 2 would be the starting point of this activity, and 3 should be the ending point of this activity. Correct? Is there any doubts here?
No, sir.
No. So always remember that we have to consider the early start of this particular node. That is the second node. Since this is the starting point, this is the starting point of the activity, is it right? And here the activity finishes. And here the activity finishes. So that is the reason we have to consider E2. E2 is nothing but what is E2? It is a early start. It is the early start for node 2. Node means what? It is the starting point for 2-3 activity. Or any node means what? It is the starting point of an activity or the ending point of an activity.
Okay, sir.
If anyone has not understood, I can explain this once again. But it's better we make it clear as to how to determine the early start, because this problem may come for 10 marks. Anyone has not understood, you just ask and get it clarified. Not only for this problem, for every problem, this is how we consider the E2 calculation. We have to see what is the starting point. Starting point will be here, the first digit. Okay, that is the starting point, and same number has to be written here. Okay, and the rest of the steps you can follow it by yourself. Okay, let's go for the next activity and see whether everyone has understood this correctly or not. 3-4 is the next, is it right? So how do we represent 3-4? 3-4. So here in this case, which value of E should be considered here? So next activity is 3-4, and this is how we represent 3-4 in the activity network diagram. So here, what number I'm supposed to write?
35.
35. But here, what value is to be written? So 35 is possibly this.
Sir, how 35, sir?
No, first of all, let me know what is this. This number. What number is to be written here?
3, sir.
8.
Yes, exactly right. Why 3? Because you have to consider the early start of the third node. That means what? Any activity starting from the third node, the early start date would be E3. Let me just check if it is 35. Yes. So here, if you have to see, E3 is already calculated in our previous class, and E3 is equal to 35. Is it right? Now that is what we are supposed to write. Okay. So the answer for this should be equal to E3. That is very simple, nothing much complicated. Whatever number you find here, the same number is to be written here. Okay. And E3 has to be referred from this particular table. Whatever you have already calculated, the same table we are supposed to refer, and we have to write 35 as the answer. Is it right? Is it understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just tell me the answer of 4-7 in that case. What should be the early start of 4-7?
60.
What is it?
60.
4.
E4, correct?
60.
Yes. What I will do is
60.
correct. Why 60? Because from this. Let's 4. Yes. 3 dash 4. And next one is 4 dash 7. 4 dash 7. And in this case, we are supposed to consider E4. And E4 is how much? Correct. Now, why? So, instead of drawing the network diagram, it's very much simple. You have to just see what is this number. Same number has to be written here. Okay. So, whatever is the starting point of the activity, starting point is 4. The same number has to come over here. That is equal to E4. E4 is equal to 60. Okay, is it fine? This is how we are supposed to determine the early start. If anyone has any doubts regarding calculating early start, you have to ask. Okay, so just calculate early finish for these two activities. For 3-4, what is the early finish?
Sixty.
Okay, so why 60? Because 35 plus 25. So next 35 plus 25, 60. Similarly, the next value, how much is the next value?
Ninety.
9. E4 is 60, and this is 60 plus 30, 90. Correct? So these are the different values. I think for the rest of the activities, we'll solve it in the next class. You just try to determine the early start and early finish for the rest of the activities. We'll solve this in the next class. Okay. And meanwhile, if anyone has not understood any of the calculations, you can just ask. Yes. So class here can just give me the absentees list for today's class. All right.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. What is it? Yes. So you're supposed to solve for the next 3 activities. determine the early start for next 3 activities. To continue the next.